Welcome to another episode of the Jesus Cartel, where I have started the episode against Clay's wishes because I just popped him with a top-notch get-to-know-you segment question, and he's not ready to answer it.
Yeah, so he asked a question, and then I'm trying to think, and he said, "Are you ready?" I said, "No," and he collapsed. So it's typical Andrew.
So here we are.
I like it.
Welcome to the Jesus Cartel, also known as
Yeah.
the Smoke Break. And I think that maybe we should even consider renaming our podcast the Smoke Break.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah? No?
No.
Oh, it's crazy.
I know nothing about
I
that.
had to tell you about that later.
Okay. Well, I will say this. I am very happy to be here. Even though it was a wet walk into our fine studio here, I am very excited to be back. It just seems like all is right with the world, right?
Yeah.
Because we're back in our studio. We're doing a full-length episode today. It's just me and you. We don't have to worry about anybody, else and everything. And so I just think it's great. It's like all is right with the world.
Well, when your life is built on routine and the routine gets disrupted and then you get it back to where it's supposed to be, there is something oddly satisfying about it.
I like it. There was a little issue that come up yesterday, and it was, hey, we're supposed to do something at a certain time on a certain day. And so I'm like, hey, this is the time and this is the day. We decided this a year ago. This is when it is. Just reminded everybody. And they're like, so you just decided that on your own? No, we decided this a year ago. Here's the documentation of it. I'm just saying that this is when we decided to do it. And they're like, but I'm not around. Well, I understand. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with routine and being intentional and stuff, and not any other reason other than I'm just a routine guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, I've told people this before. I read the whole Bible through for 3 years every single morning, and the only time I ever had any trouble with it whatsoever was when I was on a mission trip.
Yep.
So here I am on a mission trip in another country preaching the gospel, and that's when I would have the toughest time to stay on my Bible reading plan. Any other time, I'm good.
Sure.
And so, routine guy at a fault sometimes. It sure don't mean anything bad about it. It's just the way I am. But being back in here with you, doing this, where we do it at, I like it.
Yep. There's definitely something oddly satisfying about just knowing what to expect and being able to do those things. I guess maybe it's because there's so much of life that I have to be flexible for. We talked about the importance of maintaining flexibility even though you have very structured routine.
Right.
And there's so much in life that I have to pivot for off the cuff. But my day is planned from the moment that I wake up all the way until I go to bed. I've got something that I'd like to accomplish in each window. And that's not just me saying, there's legitimately, it's structured out of my mind. But I'm constantly having to turn and make pivots off those things. Why? Because we love people. And loving people looks like all sorts of things.
And it's difficult sometimes.
Right.
This morning I had a guy text me that I've been working with, and he asked me, he said, do you have any time for me today? And I hate the way he worded the question because I hate the way I had to word the answer. And it's like,
no.
I have 5 minutes on the phone right now because I'm in Baskin.
Yep.
But once I get to the center, I mean, the rest of my entire day is planned. I mean, I'm not saying there won't be 5 to 10 minutes, but the way the schedule looks like right now, it isn't there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't come up at some point. I said, now I do have, opening tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Man, I hate being like that, but it's all good stuff, and everything. And if I, so if I change the meeting, if I change this or whatever, then what am I communicating to the other people? Hey, you're not as important, or your time's not important, or we got to change this for this one. And it's difficult. And so I hated to tell my friend that today, but I did offer a spot tomorrow, and he took it. So
Sure. I'm about to say something that I just absolutely should not reveal. But I'm going to do it anyways because I think it might help some people. So life is kind of structured out as far as my flexibility into 3 tiers. There's a high priority, there's a medium priority, and there's a low priority. And here's how I diversify those. So the high priority is emergencies. It's no more complicated than that. It's if I don't get to that, there's going to be immediate, intense repercussion for whoever's involved, because there's usually not for me. It's very rare something comes up that's going to affect me majorly. I mean, it'd have to be like the craziest circumstance, but because I manage my stuff pretty well. But if there's immediate negative recourse, somebody relapses and is drunk behind the wheel of a car, like, okay, I'm willing to drop everything and get to this situation. This is a immediate recourse, need to be there. Most everything else for me falls in the medium importance, because low importance is its own category, and I'll explain in just a second. But the medium importance things, those are things that, like, if you need to talk to me, because there will be recourse if you don't course correct soon. Like, hey, get me like a week out, and I will 100% create a window for you, because I'm probably scheduled months out, but I can definitely find somewhere if you will give me a week's heads up. Like, hey man, can we get lunch sometime next week? The answer to that question is gonna be yes. Yeah. I don't know where, and it may not be lunch, but we will find an hour somewhere that I can 100% make time for you, and you'll know that it's intentional, because it's gonna be specific. It's 7:17 on Thursday, And so most things in life, to me, fall in that category, because they're important, and people are important, but there's no immediate consequence. And so am I willing to derail everything that needed to get accomplished today in order to do the same? And my honest answer is no. But there's a reason. Because if I derail everything that needed to be done every time somebody called for something like that, my life would fall apart. And if my life falls apart, I'm going to be in a position where I can help no one. Right. And so I have to maintain the structure and stability of my own home, my own relationships, my own walk with the Lord, my jobs, the different things like that. Those have to be stable for me to be in a position to help people. If I have no stability in my life, I'm not going to be very useful. Mm-hmm. And so that's the reason that, like, hey, I can't force you into the schedule today. Right. I will find time with you in the next 7 days, but I can't force you in today. Now, the low priority things, just so you understand, because people are probably, people who've spent time with me are probably wondering if they ever get lumped into this. Let me tell you how you end up in a low priority situation. If I warned you ahead of time not to do something, and you did it anyways, and then it caused calamity in your life, you have chosen to be into the low priority category. And here's why you're there. It doesn't mean I'm not going to give you any time, ever. But it does mean that you don't value my word or my time. So I'm not going to shove you above all these other things that I have to do that do absolutely value my word and my time. And so when I have a legitimate space for you, I will look at my calendar. I will find my next free day. There's a real chance it's 3 months out. That's not a joke. There's a real, and I will set a date, and you better make that date. Because if you call me and tell me you can't make it, then there
is something lower than low priority.
Yeah, we'll find it.
So for me, it's a lot more simple. It's because all of my time is spent for other people. Almost all of it, and so very, very little is not. Because if it was my time for me that you're asking for, I'd give it to you, because I'm a people pleaser. That's just the way I am. And so when we're talking about trying to reschedule something or fit somebody in or whatever, for me, it's if I can explain to the other people that your situation is more difficult and they feel good about it, then I'm okay with it. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if there's an emergency and I had something planned, I'm like, look, man, this is what, real quick, hey, buddy ended up in the emergency room, and the guy's like, oh, man, just go. I understand. We'll catch it next time or whatever. If it's like that, and I feel good about it and they feel good about it, then I'm okay with it, But anything other than that, I'm basically telling them that, what somebody else wants me to do is more important than them.
Right.
Because, as a lot of you know, I'm a big time management guy. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to tell you, man, I just didn't have time to do it. No, the truth is I didn't make it a priority, or we didn't know about it in time to make it a priority.
Sure.
And so very honest about that. So anyhow, I enjoy routines. I enjoy taking care of business. I enjoy helping people. But when somebody asks for some time and I can't give it to them, it bothers me. I don't like it. But all of my time is spent giving to other people.
I just had a conversation with somebody about this situation, this exact thing that you're talking about, because there was somebody who asked them for help, and it was a situation. It was what I would consider a low priority situation. It was a situation they got themselves in. Mm-hmm. They had ample time to get done what needed to be done. They did not do what they needed to do to get that thing done, and here we are at the last minute, reaching out to this person.
Yeah. And
this person's supposed to come be the savior of this situation. And they asked me about it, and I told them, I said, don't go.
Yeah.
Don't go. This is not, I said, you will be hurting them more than helping them if you continue to bail them out of them sloughing off their responsibilities. As long as there's somebody to bail them out, they'll continue to rely on that person to bail them out. And so the best thing you can do is make them lie in the bed that they made here, because they were warned months out that this was not a good thing. And so the person's response was not good. They did not like what I said. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because of what I said. It was because they have a people-pleasing nature. And it's like, man, I don't know how to feel about telling them no. Mm-hmm. Like, this is, like, I don't do that well. And she said, I don't want to upset them. I said, do you know who's going to be upset if you do it anyways? Because where were you supposed to be? Mm-hmm. So for you to go where they're asking you to go, you got to not go where you were supposed to be.
Right.
And you're just assuming that the people you're going to bail on are fine with that. They're not. Yeah. They're just more honorable people than the people who are barking at you trying to get you over there.
That's it.
And so that's where people pleasers make mistakes so much, is they end up trying to please the people that care about them the least. And the people that care about them the most, who don't cry and complain when their feelings get hurt or whatever. Not saying I condone for you having your feelings hurt all the time, but because they love you enough not to bring it up to you constantly, well, it's actually their needs that get ignored. The people who care
100%.
the most about you. And so, you got to be real careful.
100%. And like for me, I am a people pleaser, but I am above that more of a time management guy over the years. And so if you plan a party a month or two in advance, and a lot of people say they're coming, and you did all the work and you did everything you were supposed to do, and nobody comes, man, I'm feeling really bad for you.
Right.
So bad that, I'm going to go try to do whatever I can do. But if you just call everybody the night before and say, hey, by the way, my anniversary's tomorrow and I'd like to do something, hey, if we can possibly make it, we'll make it. Yeah. But I don't feel bad about it if we can't.
Sure.
Because number one, you need to do better at time management. Mm-hmm. And number two, you need to value mine and your wife's time more than what you are right now.
Well, the other thing that goes kind of with, cause you've made yourself known to be a people pleaser. You said that a couple of times, and I want to say this to people so they understand: is that we all have tendencies. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't actually call you a people pleaser. I would say that you have people pleasing tendencies, that your mind naturally gravitates towards wanting to please people. But if I was just to analyze your decisions, I couldn't call you a people pleaser because you don't decide to do people pleasing behaviors. You just are tempted to do people pleasing behaviors. And so one of the great markers of a good communicator and somebody who's listening to the Lord, and you need to know this, is even though people have a leaning, they're able to participate in unbiased thinking. And that is what I would call a rare quality, and I think it's the reason that you and I get along well. And this isn't a boast of us. This is something that other people have said about us to us multiple times. Is that despite our leanings, which my leanings are actually the opposite. Right. My leanings are to get done what I scheduled and to heck with everybody else. And so, like, I have to do the other thing, where I have to really be empathetic and think about, that's harder for me. But I'm able to take a step back and say, okay, here's how I feel. What needs to happen, though?
Amen.
What really needs to happen? And I can make that call despite what I want to do. And you on the other side, even though you want to do the people-pleasing thing, you make the right call. And that's why taking advice from you is easy. And so when you're looking for people to take advice from, it doesn't have to be Clay or I, but you need to look for people who, even though everybody's got a leaning, and if they tell you they don't, they're lying. Everybody's got a leaning. But look for people who make the right decision despite the way they lean. If they always choose the way they lean, I'd be hesitant to let them have too much of a voice with you, just because those people are going to have a very hard time admitting when they're wrong, because they have to double down. And two, they're probably not going to give you the best, most unbiased decision or advice based on what's going on, the factors at play, because they can't see past their natural tendencies. And so you gotta be able to do that. It's sports is a great example of that, in that, like, I've got some teams that I really like, but if you ask me, hey, how does the team look, I'm not gonna go, oh man, this is our year. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not our year. It's very far from our year. You know what I mean? And I could have told you that well before. Some people look at everything through rose-colored glasses, and that, no matter what's going on, it's. We had a conversation with a buddy of ours last week, and if you ask him if LSU is going to win, every time, every sport, LSU is always going to win, and you love people like that, forever the optimists, and they have a great role, and they're usually fantastic encouragers and things like that. But you got to be able to look at things in an unbiased perspective and know when you're licked and know when you need to make changes, and if your bias won't let you do that, that's a prison. It's not.
Well, and I agree with everything you just said, and 100%. And like I said, I agree 100%. But the last thing you just said, is that person is positive is a good encourager, and I agree with that too. But I want to say this, because I have a lot of people that say I have the gift of encouragement, but I think that one of the reasons why my encouragement works is because of everything you said previous to that. And that is that I'm not some just, hey man, you're great type deal or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to analyze it, look at it, and encourage you all at the same time. But what I'm not going to do is tell you you're great at something that you're not great at.
Yeah.
And so even though I want to make you happy, I know the best way to make you happy is for you to get better.
Right.
And not for me to give you some false, hope or whatever. And so being a straight shooter with somebody while encouraging them is great. I have a really good friend, and we were at praise team practice years ago, and she was telling somebody how great they did when they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew they didn't do great, and she knew they didn't do great, but she was trying to encourage them. And instead of saying, hey, you did good in this part, but let's work on this or whatever, she just basically told them, you didn't. What I heard was, you don't need to get any better.
Yeah.
That's what I heard,
yeah.
because of the way she encouraged them. Well, then the next time she told me I did good on something, it made me feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
And so I was like, did she really think that I did good? Because she didn't think that a week ago when she said that to so-and-so. I know she didn't. She couldn't have.
100%.
So I think that the best encouragers are the ones that are able to have a positive attitude, but also speak the truth and look at things correctly.
Flattery is a killer.
There you go.
It seems so nice at the time. Like, usually from the people who are doing the flattery, they were like, man, I'm going to build them up here in this moment. It's like, a lot of times what you're doing is not building them up. You're giving them permission to stay the same. Right. And maybe the same is bad.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody's legitimately good, then it's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
To some degree.
Yeah, agreed.
To some degree.
I was about to
For
say
a period of time.
Yeah. And,
Right.
and again, that's a leaning you have, not to flatter you. That's
right.
not, but to encourage.
Yeah.
You celebrate wins a lot better than I do.
Right.
I would consider you somebody that celebrates all the time.
Right.
I don't. That is not. I'm not saying that's right. Both exclusively are wrong. Mm-hmm. If all you did was celebrate or all you did was correct, both of those would be failures. Which is why, even though we both have leanings, we both do the other. Like, even though you celebrate all the time, I notice you make corrections more than I notice you celebrate. I don't think that you do correct more than you celebrate necessarily, but I notice it more because I know you went against the grain to do it. But you've done it for so long now that I would say that it's part of you. Like you're not having to, maybe when you first started, you had to like stop celebrating and force some correction when you were a teenager or whatever. But you've been doing that for so long now that it's like you just correct well. Like you understand what, and for me, like I have to sometimes take a breath and be like, hey, not everything has to be fixed always, all at once. Sometimes you can just tell people, hey man, I'm really, really proud of you. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there's a good time for me to just say, hey, I'm super proud of you. You know, that's you've come a long way, and I just want you to know I'm really, really impressed with what you've done. But that's not what my mind wants to say. My mind's still looking at what could have been tightened up and what could have been better. And so, but if I'm always doing that, man, it's so deflating for people to only hear correction always and never hear, hey, you're doing good. You know?
And that's something that, I mean, because, if you've been around this podcast very long, you realize that Andrew and I have the same hopes and desires for our kids and for our family and stuff. It's just that I'm at the stage where mine are, are more grown, and he's at the stage where he's right in the middle of that and stuff. And so that is one thing that we have to worry about with our jobs, with who we minister to in relations to our kids. Because if our kids see us telling somebody who's ruined their entire life, but they've done great for the last 3 months, how proud we are of them. And then, they don't put their toys up and we're not proud of them. They didn't have a needle in their arm. They didn't do this stuff. And so there's a big balance there, and we have to find that. And the older your kids get and the more they're around the population that you serve on a regular basis, the more that we have to be conscious of those things.
I think about it in Scripture when it says that people perish for their lack of knowledge. And I'm not going to dive into the whole fear of God thing I've been on for the last several days, but that's legitimately not where I was going. But I think I hold people to the standard of what I know they know. You know what I mean? It's like, so my children know the toys go back in the toy box. So when the toys aren't back in the toy box, there was a knowledge, there was an expectation, and you chose to ignore both of those to get the result that you got. That's disappointing. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what's got to, I guess, be made clear.
So the issue that we have with that is not only do they have to know what they know and the responsibility based on what they know, but they also have to know that these people did not know. Right. That's where the whole difference is right there. Is, hey, they understand their rules and their, set deal, but my dad's over here praising these who's never put a toy back.
Right.
So they had to recognize, hey, they weren't raised the way you were raised, or whatever. So there's definitely a balance there.
Yeah, there's there's some kids that my kids hang around, and I really like them. But they've got a difficult home situation. And one of the kids is really mean to their sibling, but really sweet to my kids. And it's like I'm so pleased with their attitude towards my kids that it's a dynamic I got to be careful of, because I would not approve of my children talking to each other the way that they speak to each other. And so that's just one of those like delicate balance things like you're talking about, because I know what they're dealing with at home.
Right.
And how great is it that they're treating my children this way, with this sort of love and respect and friendship, knowing what they've got going on, or what they don't have going on, because that's a lot of the problem is,
but when
is
your
lack
kids
of oversight.
see how they handle other situations.
Right, and so it's like it gets hard, and there's no way for me to explain to my kids, like, hey, you have the best parents.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't understand how much of an advantage you have in life, because you're so loved and taken care of, and you have somebody who's holding you to a standard and giving you responsibilities.
And they'll see that, but it won't be today.
Right, and it's going to be a while, probably, you know what I mean? But it's also because we don't let them into a lot of situations where they get to experience anything other. You know, I'm not letting them stay at
I agree.
I don't want to use a random name
I agree.
there.
I agree.
But anyways, it's a lot of fun,
Well,
man.
what an introduction, man.
Yeah.
See, this is what we've missed with Jesus Cartel right here. This is a good communication, good for our listeners to be able to see kind of our insight. I mean, we do get to know you segment questions and different things like that, but you just got to see a lot of insight into us, into what we think about, into how we rationalize things. I think it was a guest that we had on here. I think it was when Terry Poland was on here, and we always ask our guests, what is your favorite thing about me and your favorite thing about Andrew? And I think it was Terry that said that he likes the way that I consider everybody's feelings and everything, in a situation. And like I said, don't always try to please everybody in there, but we do consider all the repercussions, everything that's going on. Yesterday there was some conversations going on that I could have got dragged into, but I knew better than to get dragged into them because I still hadn't wrote my sermon. I was behind on my case notes. I knew that today was an off day for me from here because I was doing something else, and that Friday was already pretty full. And so I knew that, hey, I can't get involved in this, but I wanted to because they wanted me to. And so I considered it and considered all the deal, but at the end of the day, I was like, I just don't have that time. What am I going to not do? Am I not going to write my sermon to where now on Sunday I just had to pull out an old one and they don't get what God wanted for them? My girls are coming into town. Do I not spend time with them because I do this? Blaze and Colleen are getting married Saturday night. Do I skip the wedding? I'm feeding the youth tonight. Do I just not feed them? Say, hey, somebody else go pick up pizza or something, and it costs $150 instead of me being able to cook for them for $40 and be able to do that. All those things go through my mind. Because I'm going to consider all the situations. Why? Because you put me in a situation where you need some of my time or want me to be involved in something, but I got to decide what's priority.
Yep.
And what's not, and what I have time to deal with and what I don't, and what's the repercussions if I don't.
Right.
Now I don't let that go so much that it just cripples me or anything like that, but it is part of my thought process.
Yep.
It really is.
And it should be.
I met with a couple yesterday, or I met with the lady, and I'd already met with the guy, and they said that they grew apart. Well, I understand how that happens. You put things over your spouse, things over people, things over relationships. Me and you talked about a relationship that you have with a guy that you hadn't talked to in a couple of years. Well, that relationship grows apart.
Yep.
Right. There's not the intentionality there. It's not like you want it to grow apart. It's just that on both sides, other things become priorities. Well, that's okay. But it's not okay when it's your spouse or your family or whatever. But that's what's going to happen if you put other people's priorities over your own.
Right.
And here's something that Andrew said that I just want to recap one more time, then we can move on, do whatever y'all want to do. But most of the time, the reason why you're having to do that last second isn't because of an emergency. Most of the time, it's because that person didn't take care of their business ahead of time,
Right.
And now you're having to go try to clean it up.
Right. I wanna say this. I'm not gonna say to close out the section because you may have something afterwards. But I want to say this about Clay because I think it's important because a lot of people know you, but a lot of people don't. You know what I mean? They definitely don't know you like I do.
Right.
If you spent a lot of time with me, I'm just gonna say this for the sake of I come off as arrogant to a lot of people anyway, so I'm not so concerned with how people take it. But I lead extremely well, and for that reason, it's very difficult for me to put myself under someone else's leadership. And you'll find that as you get more intelligent, more mature in your life, you're much more finicky about who you allow to speak into your life. Because if someone is consistently failing in areas that were layups to you, it's hard to serve underneath them, especially when they won't take correction. They're unteachable, like all these type of things. The main reason, and there's others, but there's two. Let's say there's two main reasons that I choose to allow Clay to continue to lead me. One is the fruit of his life. The fruit that his life has produced, you can't argue it. And so that's one of the reasons that I continue to serve underneath you. Even if I felt like I had surpassed you as a leader, I would still continue to serve under you for that reason, because the fruit that your life has produced is something that I want to continue being produced in my life. And so regardless of what I think I figured out, clearly you have figured something out. You know what I mean? And when we say figured out, we obviously mean through the Spirit of God. We don't mean in and of ourselves. And so Clay has figured something out in his relationship with the Lord that's producing the type of fruit that I hope my life continues to produce end over end. I would feel satisfied if my life didn't produce any more fruit than his life produced. Now, obviously, we always hope that we continue to surpass, but it would be a good life. And so that's one reason. The second reason is this, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize about you. The thing that makes a leader truly great is not just his ability to make correct decisions. It's about making correct decisions quickly. How fast can you make those correct decisions? Now, one of the things that makes me excellent is that I can make snap judgments quickly, and I'm almost always right. And I'm talking about things that other people have had to sit down for weeks and write out all the pros and the cons and the balances and they're trying to figure out. And I can look at a situation, I can hear the details, and I can boom, and I can make a call, and it's almost always going to be right. He does it even faster than I do. That is a sign of somebody who's truly great at leading and has true unbiased understanding of situations and circumstances. And so you can't. I was meeting with a guy one time. His name was Chris Dobson. You may have heard of him. And we were talking about sales. And he said, in sales, you got to be one of three things. You got to be the best, you got to be the cheapest, or you got to be first. Leadership is not altogether different than that. If you make good decisions quickly, you can be the first one to the table. And when you're the first one to the table, most of the negotiating power lies in your lap. Clay beats everybody to the table by a lot. And so there's a reason that you should consider, and I'm telling the viewers this because if you need somebody to speak into your life, he's just a good one. That's why Thrive Church is doing so well. That's why all the ministries that he's involved in do so well. That's why his business stuff is doing so well. That's why his children are doing so well. That's why his marriage is doing so well. There's not an area of his life that's not doing well. And so just consider when you're looking at the people around you whether or not they possess some of these qualities that we talked about today. And there's a lot of people, and you may be looking at me, listening to me, and be like, "Man, Andrew claims to have a lot of these things." It's like, look, there's a lot of people that claim a lot of things. Look at their life. It's very easy to see whether or not it's real. A lot of people could sit here behind a computer and say the exact same things that I just said. Look at their life. Does their life produce what they're saying that it produces? If it does, it's very easy to tell. If it doesn't, it's also very easy to tell. And I wouldn't say anything that couldn't be proven by the life that I've produced so far.
I agree 100%.
And so,
yeah, I agree. And a lot, all those things that Andrew was talking about with me, he possesses all those things too. And, all those things, the only difference between us is that I've been doing some of these things longer. That's it. He is, at his age, he is very far surpassed where I was at that age, and he's been able to progress quicker in some areas. And one of the reasons is hanging out with good people. Right. I mean, they're hanging out with the people that are doing that.
That's a huge leg up. Man.
Right. Yeah. If you're always the smartest person in the room, you need to go find a different room.
Right.
I mean, I had to find them. Andrew has to find them. Different people had to find them, and so I agree with all that. Another reason, somebody touched on being able to be, quicker to make good decisions. Anybody can make a quick decision. Right. And then you double down and you hang out with that decision and stuff, and that's difficult. But being good at making quick decisions, I think there's two major things on my mind is number one, being sensitive to the Holy Spirit, having such a great relationship with God that the Holy Spirit is so evident in your life that you're able to hear from Him in a more clear manner than other people. Some people are like, man, I went and, it took me 45 minutes to really get into the presence of the Lord. And I'm like, okay. And
I didn't mean to laugh at that.
Yeah, but I hear this from great people that I love. And I'm like, they're like, man, the longer the prayer meeting, the better. And at some point you really just break through. And I'm okay. And I don't want to knock it because that's their deal and that's okay. That's not me. I can hear from God all the time and do. And it's because, number one, because the relationship's strong, and number two, I don't have all the junk of the world clouding me listening, to God. And so I think one of the reasons why, and Andrew's the same way, I think one of the reasons why we're able to hear from the Lord so much is because we have such a strong relationship with the Lord with all the junk of the world pushed out of the way, and we're able to feel and listen and hear the presence of God all the time in our life, and that's why we pray for y'all to be aware of the presence of God. That's the reason, so that we don't have to go fast for a week to decide if we need to eat this or eat that, but God shows us what to do. The next reason why we're good at making, quick decisions there is because we play scenarios in our mind ahead of time. Sure. We're not just living for today, we're looking at tomorrow. Now, we're not looking at tomorrow so much that we can't enjoy today, but we are working today looking at tomorrow. One of the keys in time management is that throughout your day, you're working on your goals. Even though you're doing your daily stuff, you're still working on your goals. So for us, we look, and how we look at it's different. Andrew looks at worst case scenario. I look at the best move possible. And so we look at it a little different, but we're always looking ahead to the what else or what's next or what's coming up, but not so much so that we can't value today. Right. And so that when you are in tune with the Holy Spirit and you're always not just living for today but looking for the future, then it's a lot easier to make good quality split-second decisions or short period of time decisions. Another thing, and I'd just be remiss if I didn't say this, is also being people that look back at decisions that we make and then say, okay, was that a good decision? Mm-hmm. I did that this morning. Nicole has been our admissions coordinator now for, I think, 3 months. And I was thinking this morning, now is the time for me to sit back and start and look and say, hey, did I make a good decision? Hire Nicole as a admissions coordinator. Then I need to go to Nicole and say, hey, do you think that you made a good decision to come take this role? Mm-hmm. Because now's the time. I mean, we can't just be, oh, well, she took the job, she's got to do it, or I made a decision to hire her, it had to be. No, well, let's go back and look at those things and let's revisit it. Why? Because that's going to help us make better decisions in the future. Mm-hmm. Same way, Monica took her job at the thrift store. I had to look at it. Hey, Monica, do you think that you made a good decision now 3 months later on taking over the thrift store? Do I think that I made a good decision offering Monica the thrift store? Mm-hmm. And so some people, they just make the best decision they can make and then they just run with it and act like that's it. But our way of thinking is different. It's, hey, we made the best decision we can make. Let's do it, see what happens, and then let's go back and look at it, reevaluate it, and be man enough to say, it probably could have went a little better.
And so that's the importance of not doubling down when you're wrong.
Right.
Because a lot of times this is what happens in your mind is you say, well, if I don't double down, I'm admitting that I was wrong. And being wrong, I'll be honest with you, being wrong does cost you something.
Right.
It does. Because when you're wrong, the people around you who watched you be wrong, they're going to think just a little bit less of your decision making because you made a wrong call. That absolutely does happen. It is true. We can't ignore that is a reality. But here's the question. Do you want to be right one time now, or do you want to be right about this thing forever?
Yeah.
Because if you double down, you can swear by your position that you are correct now, but you will be wrong about that thing for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and that's where the difficulty goes. And so the middle ground is, it doesn't always have to be right or wrong. It can be, hey, we made the best decision, or the decision we thought was best with the information that we got, but now that we got a little more information, we see we probably should have done it a little different. That's not being wrong. That's just, hey, both ways work, but this way is better. But when you're wrong and you don't admit that you're wrong, you're going to be wrong. Look, I know this is a baseball podcast, and we hadn't talked about baseball, but I did this to the first phasers the other day. If you're playing shortstop and they hit a ball to you at shortstop, and when you go to scoop that ball, you fumble it a little bit, hey, that's a mistake. You did that wrong. Whether you can blame it on the dirt, you can blame it on the ball, you can blame it on the humidity, you can blame it on the field, you can blame it on turf, or whatever. Whatever it is, they hit you the ball, you bobble the ball, and you can blame them on whatever. But that's not what's most important about that play. What's most important about that play now is, what do you do from here?
Yeah.
Because if you eat it and you don't throw it to first and you got it, hey, you made a mistake, but you minimized the effects of that mistake.
That's right.
Hey, it was still. But what do most people do? Most people take that ball and they throw it harder than they were going to first, to try to make up for their mistake. So instead of eating it and admitting their mistake, now they're throwing it to first harder to try to make up for their mistake instead of admitting it. And what does it do almost every time? Goes over the first baseman's head. Now we're looking at a double, a triple, or inside the park home run.
Right.
Minimize the negative consequences by admitting that you're wrong and eating it. Then moving forward.
That's good. Yeah. Don't let one mistake turn into two.
That's it.
And it happens all the time, man. It's you can, when you learn from something, that's a skill. It's an act of humility. It's so many good things, and there are just certain things you have to learn. I tell you, I was trying to think of like a really practical example. There's a par 3 at Black Bear, hole 6, and if you miss the green left, it's woods and water. If you miss far, it's either woods or it's down a hill that's probably like a 15 to 20 foot drop. If you miss right, it's in a bunker. If you miss a little further right, like past the bunker but still right, then it's going to hit the cart path and go into the trees. But if you miss short, it's just a very slight incline up to the green, right? So let's say the hole on this particular day is 170 yards. Well, I've got a club that hits 170 yards. The problem is the margin for error, if I try to hit it 170 yards, is very, very small.
Yep.
If I hit it perfect, then it'll hit the green. But if I hit it a little too hard, a little too left, a little too right, I'm in a bind. And so do you know what I do when I play hole 6 at Black Bear? I get my 160-yard club, and I hit it.
Yep.
And sometimes I catch it just perfect. And because I caught it just perfect, it'll still land on the green. But most of the time, it ends up just a few feet short of the green. And it's perfectly fine.
Safe place. Yeah.
It's perfectly fine. And so, now, how did I come into that information? Because I have hit so many balls out of bounds at hole 6. And eventually I had to come to grips with the fact it's like, hey, maybe that even though my mind's telling me this is the play, the execution tells me this is not the play.
Yeah.
Now I can play my 170-yard club my whole life and keep hitting this ball out of bounds, or I can learn. And you know where I usually start to pull ahead of people when we play at Black Bear together?
Yeah.
About hole 6.
Yep.
You know, why? Because I'm used to playing there and they're not.
Yep.
And I'll tell them, because I'm a nice guy. I'll say, hey, look, it's 170. If I were you, I'd hit 160. Your call, I'm going to hit for 160. And they'll grab their 170 club and they'll hit it into the woods or hit it into the water, and they'll get themselves in a bind. And I'll hit it just a couple of feet short, and I'll beat them by 1 or 2 strokes on the hole, depending on how bad they got themselves in a bind. And that's where things start to separate. But it's because I allowed my wrong decisions to create for me future right decisions.
Yep.
But if you double down, you'll just be wrong forever.
Yeah, and then now you're with new guys that's never seen you do it wrong before, and in their mind, hey, Andrew hits that hole perfectly.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know,
I'm so smart.
Right,
Yeah.
Andrew's so smart because he hits that hole perfectly.
Yeah.
Because that is probably the most difficult hole because you're coming out of a par 5 or whatever, and then you have that, and the way he described it was all pretty because he was like, to the left is woods, to the back, but it's very close. I mean, it's my ball goes on the other side of the cart path or over this. It's not even in play most of the time there. That's my worst hole because I just haven't played enough golf to the margin for error is very small there.
Yes.
And so I haven't played enough golf to understand where my sweet spot is. It's the same way with making decisions. A lot of the decisions I make, I've made these decisions a lot. Some right, some wrong, and I've learned from them. And because I've learned from them, then, hey, even though the margin for error may be real small, it's not for me. It's kind of like when you say, man, instead of seeing a baseball, he's seeing a softball. I'm seeing it better. Why am I seeing it better? Because I've been in this area many times, and I haven't just done one thing. I've done several things, and I've figured it out.
Right.
And now we're seeing it better. So, here it is. Clay looks like he's making great decisions, but the decisions were made a long time ago.
Right.
The work was put in.
And so the next question is are you willing to take advice from people who've been there?
Yeah.
Or do you have to make the call that you feel is best for you? Because there's always things that we all have like go-to things in our life, like things that usually work out really well for us, things that make us feel good. And those are the things that we want to do. Right? There are certain problem-solving techniques that come more naturally to us, and we just want to do those. But what if somebody comes along with a little bit of experience and tells you, hey, look, I know that this feels right. This is what you're going to want to do, but I'm just from my experience, I believe that it would be better to do this instead. A great example, I'm just going to say it anyway. Like let's keep this a sports podcast. The very next hole is a dogleg right. And if you hit your driver, because of how dry it's been, it's raining now, but because of how dry it's been, if you hit your driver, when it hits the ground, it's sloped straight down after about 220 yards. If you hit your driver and it hits that ground, it's going to run all the way into the woods, no matter how perfectly you hit it. There is no window to hit your driver there safely. The best thing you could do is take a wood or an iron off that next tee box. Now, it's a long par 4. And so in your mind, you're just like, man, I can't do that. I'm taking away, 60 yards off of my tee shot. It's like, no, you're keeping a ball in bounds. That's what you're doing. And if you'll trust me, that hard ground will take that iron and roll it to where your driver would have been. Or you could do what feels good.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I've been playing with people who, because I play Black Bear all the time. It's my favorite place to play. And I'll play with people who don't play there a whole lot. And they'll be on their little team, and I'm just like, hey, look, guys, you do what you want. But I don't like to feel like I have an advantage. Obviously, I do because I play there a lot. But I try to negate that by telling them what I know. It doesn't usually work, though, because they tend to just do what they want to do anyways. And I can't tell you how many times I'm a much better golfer than whoever they're playing with. And they'll listen to the yahoo in their cart. Who's telling, man, hit your driver, don't listen to him. And then they'll hit the driver into the woods. And it's like, are you humble enough to take advice from somebody who's telling you, somebody with experience, who's telling you to do a little bit different? This isn't going to feel as good. But if you'll do it this way, it's going to give you a better result. A lot of people can't do that.
Well, and I haven't ever had that issue as much as some people. I'm great at being a number 1, but I'm also great at being a number 2, and I'm great at being a number 5. I enjoy all those roles and stuff. And I relate it. Let's just say that Jerry Ward's telling me how to make a brisket. Well, I've eaten Jerry Ward's brisket. it's top notch. Everybody around enjoys Jerry Ward's brisket. That's not something that I cook a lot. And so if I tell Jerry Ward, hey, tell me exactly how you made this brisket, and there's some ingredient in there that I've just never used before, and it seems kind of weird to me, and I would usually use this, then I have to make a decision. Am I going to do Jerry Ward's ingredient that doesn't make sense to me?
Yeah.
But I've seen the fruit of his brisket,
Sure.
and he's better at it than I am. Now, overall, I'm probably a better cook because he cooks more meat. I'm better at cooking all of it. You know, he's going to do a really good job with the meat. I'm going to do a good job with all of it because he usually gets Christina to do the sides and stuff. And I make sides. I like sides. So overall, I may be a better cook than Jerry Ward, but
Sure.
at the same time, his brisket's better than mine.
Right.
So am I going to just say, well, look, this is the way I would do it, but I haven't done it a lot. I haven't failed at it. I just hadn't done it a lot. I could probably do it, and it's probably going to be fine. But I ate his, and I seen the fruit of it, and he says this is what he does, and I believe him, so I'm going to try it. You know what I mean? You got to be, willing, or am I going to be the guy that goes, yeah, I did it different, Jerry Ward.
Yeah.
Now, here's the deal. On the opposite side, you give me Richard made lunch yesterday because it was his wife's birthday. Richard's not really a cook, but he found a recipe that he thought would be good, and he made it by the recipe, and it was good. And it was good. It wasn't exceptional. If he cooked it a few more times, it would probably be better because he'd find, some tips.
Fine-tuning,
But he went right by the recipe, and it was good.
Made a good product.
Right. He did good. Now, and maybe even a little bit better than good, right?
Sure.
And enjoyed it. But for me, it would have been hard to trust that recipe.
Sure.
Because I don't know those TikTokers. I don't know the Pinterests. You know what I'm saying? I don't know them. So
That's
for
funny.
me, I would have used their recipe as a guide, but then I would have used the knowledge that I have from my experience cooking to try to make it as good as possible.
Yeah.
I want to know if they know something that I don't know, but I also reserve the fact that I know some things they don't know too.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that person. But if I had eaten it before and eaten it 10 times and every time it's top notch, then I'm not going to decide the way I want to do it. I'm going to do it just the way they did
Right.
it.
Yeah, you have that a lot in life. You got people taking online fitness advice from a guy whose TikToks they watch, and it's like, that guy's been on steroids for quite some time. He's telling you if you'll do 20 push-ups a day, you'll look like him. He's lying. Like you won't. Yeah, and it's like find the people in your life whose fruit you can examine and utilize those people in your life. We want to, the eye just pulls to the aesthetic that we're looking for, be it food or fitness or whatever. There's a certain aesthetic we're looking for in life. Might even be money. Right. Some type of status, and we just draw to that, and it's like, dude, those things can be easily manipulated by people that you don't know. And so, like, utilize the people that are successful that that you rub elbows with, that you have relationships with. That's always going to give you a better result. And the other thing is this. Understand what role the Lord is leading you to play in situations. Because Clay talked about, being a 1 or 2 or 5 in different situations. It's like, we're not all called to be the number 1 guy.
Right.
You're not. As a matter of fact, that number 2 is my favorite role to play. It's the best. It's the best. And here's why. Because, like serving with you, let's say me and you have a disagreement about the call that we're going to make. At the end of the day, you get to make that call. That's just how that is, right? And you decide, hey, I've looked at it. We're going to go with my way. Okay. And me as an owner, it's your call. So it's easy for me to say, okay, it's your call. No big deal. So we go your way. It works. Hey, dude, good call. Fist bump. It's like, I would have been wrong in that situation. Fist bump. I learned something from seeing it, and awesome. Yeah. Let's say same scenario, but this time it doesn't work. Should have done what I said. Well, now I get to do my favorite thing in the world, which is I've already seen what needed to be done if this went this way. I get to do my favorite thing in the world, which is fix a problem.
Fix it.
And so, hey, man, no big deal. I got it.
Yep.
I know exactly what to do
Here we
to
go.
course correct this. We're going to fix it. And I know that I'm valued and I'm appreciated. I don't feel frustrated because I got passed on. I feel valued and appreciated because I'm about to get to use my best skill, which is to fix.
Yep.
And we're still all kosher. I don't dwell on, well, if he would have went with my idea in the first place. Yeah, you don't do all that, man. It's like, understand the role that the Lord is leading you to play. I'm not saying that I don't at times have to play number one.
Right.
There are times that I do. There are situations, I run a nonprofit. I got to play number one there. I just do. It's not my favorite thing to do. I can do it well, but it's not my favorite thing to do. And I certainly don't think it's what God has blessed me the most to do well. But figure out what that is for you. Some of you guys are much better servants than you are leaders. It doesn't mean you should never lead, but figure out where he's trying to put you in each role. And there is a, let me not use that word. There's an allure, there's an attractiveness to being the number one in everything, but it's not real, because if you're a bad number one, it's not attractive.
Yeah.
If you're a bad leader and you're leading, it's not going to draw people to you. It's not going to make you look successful. If you are the CEO of a hospital that everybody thinks sucks and would be better off if it burnt to the ground, like like nobody cares that you're the CEO. Nobody's going to go, bro, you're the CEO of the hospital where everybody goes and dies. Awesome. You know, so proud of you. Like, dude, you'd be better off being the assistant at a successful hospital, or just a doctor at a successful, or a nurse at a successful hospital, than you would be the guy in charge of a terrible one. And so,
and you may be in charge of something, but not in charge of other things. And don't think that you can't do something if you're not in charge of it. Right. It doesn't all revolve around you. You know, now when you're supposed to be the number one, be it. But when you're not, you're not. You know, but don't be like, well, if I can't be number one, I'm not going to be anything. And I'm going to give one example of this, and then I'll be done. But the other day, somebody called me about Operation Family Freedom. They had heard, that our church partners with it. They had heard, what's going on there and stuff. And so he called me and asked me about it. Well, instead of turning it over to Andrew right there, I had the time. So I told him all about Operation Family Freedom, our involvement in it, and how it goes. Then when we get to the end, he goes, well, what's the next step? Well, I could have told him, hey, look, if you want to make the donation to our church, then we'll, free the slave and everything and send you the stuff. But instead of doing that, I said, no, here's where we are right now, because he was ready. I said, here's where we are right now. I'm going to get you with the CEO of the nonprofit, and y'all go eat lunch and work this out from there. Why? Because, so for me, I was being a good number two. I sold him on the deal, told him all about it, but when it got ready to make the deal, I'm going to turn him over to Andrew. Why? Because for me, I did my job. My job was to show him our side of it, to show him what was going on, and to show him how it would benefit him. But now it's time for Andrew to establish the relationship with him and stuff, because for me, he would have gave one time. If him and Andrew establish a relationship, then it may become a continuous partner. Why? Because that's what Andrew does every day. Right. For me, I just happen to have the 20 minutes right there. Yeah. I may not have it next time because that's not my priority. I'm not the number one. I'm not supposed to be. I'm not even supposed to be the number two most of the time. I just had an opportunity to step into that role. Well, guess what? What about if I would have just said, man, that's not really my deal, and you need to talk to Andrew or whatever? Well, then I'm not helping things at all. Yeah. But that's the attitude. If I can't be the number one, I don't want to be anything. No, I was thrilled about it. Yeah. As soon as my 20 minutes was up, I walked into a function, and the three people there that knew about Operation Family Freedom, I told all three of them how excited I was about this conversation we just had, and that I knew Andrew would talk to them the next day, and they would have lunch, and this would turn into something. Yeah. And now they're doing that tomorrow.
Today.
Today. So, hey, look, those are all good things.
Yeah.
Man,
praise God.
So we never got to a get to know you segment question.
You got lucky.
And we never got to the topic.
Well, at least
that was not by design.
We got 1 and 1 for next week.
Yeah, so we're good for next week. So we already know what we're doing next week. Yeah. That's never happens.
Not usually.
Look, we love y'all.